You were listening to the Ask Anthem podcast, where we discuss tax and business strategies. In this episode, we take the show on the road and record at Reser Stadium, the football headquarters of Oregon State University. We are joined by Coach Cooper, who shares his remarkable coaching journey with us, as well as his thoughts on the current NIL landscape that has transformed many aspects of college sports. We hope you enjoy. Hello and welcome back to the Ask Anthem podcast, where we discuss important topics ranging from financial management to the wild landscape of NIL. As a CPA firm, we have made it our mission to help ensure college NIL athletes are well taken care of and educated when it comes to wealth management and tax implications. Today, we're taking you inside college football's seismic shift, the rapidly evolving world of name, image, and likeness, better known as NIL, and how it has turned recruiting and athletes' lives on its head. And today we are coming to you live from the heart of some of this madness at Oregon State University's football facility. But first, I'm very excited to announce we have Oregon State defensive backs coach AJ Cooper joining us to discuss the current landscape of the NIL. He has a very unique perspective in this field, clearly, with the recruiting side and the coaching aspect. But no further ado, Coach AJ Cooper.
What's going on? Appreciate you having me, Gab.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, of course. So yeah, a little backstory. I met Coop when I was playing here a couple years ago here at Oregon State, when he was still a graduate assistant here. And I think it's just really cool, in the last couple of years, seeing your, coaching role, just keeping evolving. And I'm so grateful today to be able to be here and talk with him about some important topics regarding NIL. So yeah, let's get right into it. So before we dive in, Coach, can you bring us up to speed on your football journey? So you started at Southern Oregon, and during your time there, where you developed both your craft and passion for the game, what experiences or lessons did you learn that you still carry with you today as a coach?
Oh, man. Well, I got lucky, and I jumped right into a winning program, championship program. So my first 2 years, we went to back-to-back national championships. So I was taught to be a winner, but also taught to follow before I led. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's a small NAI school, so doing more with less is something that we had to learn. And also just, the everyday practices of being a man of character, strength, and honor is where our core values were. So learning to do the little things in the community and all those things that we had to do to be champions on and off the field.
That's great. So obviously you've worked your way up through the coaching ranks. And from personal experience, people describe you as someone with a strong work ethic, I think, and obviously impressive defensive knowledge as well. What moments or mentors along your coaching journey have really helped shape your approach?
Man, it's just my upbringing, but really just from youth football all the way through to now. My youth football coaches were like uncles to me, that were able to coach me hard, and I was able to be coachable at a young age. Got into high school. My dad was my high school head coach, along with some of those youth football coaches. Got into college. I was coached by Craig Howard. Rest in peace to him, who was Tim Tebow's high school coach as well.
Oh, my God.
So he's legendary. He taught me a lot of good things. The guys that recruited me, Coach Brown, Coach Chin, Coach Winfield, guys that are down in Southern Oregon now that came back. I left there. I got to Central Washington, where I started coaching as a GA. Coach Fisk, Coach Torg, Coach Jack Singler, guys that were my teammates who I coached alongside. Left there, came here under Coach Smith with, Bray, Coach Tibasar, Coach Blue, Coach M, all those guys.
Legends.
Left here, went to Sacramento State under Coach Andy Thompson, Coach Cherokee, Coach K. Rich. Just different guys along the way that I've learned from, and along with guys that are in a profession that I call family and mentors as well. So everybody I come into, man, I just try to take it as a player and still be coachable.
That's awesome. Do you still keep in contact with a lot of those guys too?
Absolutely, man. That's something that I have to do because that's my football family.
Yeah.
So, aside from people I grew up with, man, that's all I have.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like something about playing football, it really does bring you closer to people, and kind of those relationships. Like even when you're done playing, like I still talk to the same dudes that I was, playing with and putting in the work with years ago. So that's one thing I really appreciated about the whole experience. So yeah. Great to hear about the backstory, but now let's get into more NIL stuff. So in just a few years, athletes have gone from making no money at all to having real business leverage and earning millions. When NIL was first introduced, what were your first impressions from a recruiting perspective?
From a recruiting perspective, it's in place, but what are you really going to do to be able to bring brand deals to their name, image, and likeness? Something that you kind of got to have, and people to go seek from you. Originally is what I thought of it. But just being a college athlete, that we wanted to get paid for, and be on covers and side of buildings and buses and all that stuff. We wanted that. So I was happy about it, kind of premeditating and assuming what it would be. But what it is now is it's a completely different monster.
Yeah. Shout out Reggie Bush. So yeah, college athletes profit obviously from their name, image, and likeness through business deals, sponsorships, and different social media partnerships. So personally, have you seen players take advantage of these opportunities? And what creative approaches that you've seen have stood out to you?
Yeah, I think they've taken great advantage. Just the opportunities. It's not all about money. Some of them, they've been able to do some nonprofit things I've seen with foundations and all that stuff, creating scholarship programs. I've seen that with former players here, whether it be Jamba Juice or whether it be, college tuitions or anything like that. But also just seeing guys build a name for themselves, go from walk-ons to scholarship guys to brand deals, so you're truly able to build your own brand by not only your performance but the type of person you are. So it's good to see that guys are reaping the benefits from also being a good person.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like in a way it kind of helps leave more of a mark for them. When you're talking about like the scholarships and the nonprofit stuff, like it has allowed people to use, the money they're making in good ways and not just for themselves and selfish reasons.
Yeah, guys are using TikTok or, guys who may not ever touch the grass, but it's an experience that they can share.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
I'm all for anybody that's earning something off of it.
That's awesome. So with NIL, the recruiting process now involves obviously like financial consideration. As prospects weigh NIL offers along with playing time and academics, how has this shifted your approach to recruiting? And when you're meeting with recruits these days and their families, how do those conversations go regarding NIL opportunities?
As far as the opportunity, you have to first let them know that the opportunity is available. But it's up to you to create that opportunity, how big that gets. So there's an opportunity for you to create a name for yourself with your image and likeness. There's no guarantee that we're just going to put you on an app and all these brands are just going to run towards you, because if running a business, I'm just not about to go pick a random person to represent my brand, So you let them know that the opportunity is there, but I think there's a difference, and people have to know about the difference between NIL and a revenue sharing. I think what the thing with NIL at first was both of those were combined. And now the separation of true NIL and branding and revenue sharing, where these guys are earning money kind of as employees.
Which I feel like people didn't really know the difference at first.
Right.
They don't realize that like the revenue sharing obviously comes from the program or school.
Right.
They can pay them however much, make a contract deal. But the NIL is actually coming from like specific, companies going out, and obviously like what you were saying, they're not just going to go pick a random, player. You have to show value to them,
right,
and show that like it's worth, investing in. So that's good to know. So yeah, I feel like there's been a big shift, not just with recruiting, but coaching too. College coaches and programs are not just expected now to coach football, but you've also been tasked with, helping athletes build their brands and secure deals. How has this changed like your day-to-day as a coach? And what kind of support systems has Oregon State put in place to help players in this new landscape?
Yeah, and the day-to-day, I guess it's just giving the advice and the mentorship on how to manage things. And now you have to manage more of a schedule if you do have these things going on. But also teaching them that you have to build skill. Like it can't just be a football thing, because if you do want these brands, or if you go on past here and become a big-time football player, you're always representing your brand and creating something. So don't just leave here and just have a football skill. Be able to communicate, be able to build relationships and those types of things. So I think the coaching part and mentorship part never really changes. It's just what you're mentoring and coaching them on, and it's how to be successful outside of football. But as far as the second part of your question is the resources that we put out there for them is financial literacy things that we also allow them to gain benefit from if they attend these things. But them getting them around brand ambassadors and former players that come around here and teach them, how to manage it and how to go about their business the right way, because they are now your own brand. So a part of my coaching approach now is when I tell them to recruit is like, it's me to develop not only your playing style, but also your personal persona and who you are and how you're represented. But you got to teach them to get involved. You got to teach them to get out there and if they really want this, like people aren't going to run to their doorstep and just bring you contracts and money, man. You got to get out there and stick your hand in the pot.
Yeah, I've never really thought about that. I feel like NIL kind of is helping players more now than like 10 years ago when there was no NIL, about like in the business world, like how to build your brand, how to go out, communicate with people, how to negotiate. I never really thought about that. It's kind of interesting.
And now they're, they have to report everything.
Yeah.
So now it's forcing them to be, on top of their stuff as far as gathering, the
more proactive.
Yeah, you got to be proactive.
Yeah.
You got to do things the right way.
Yeah.
Because, in your world, if you shortcut things or miss numbers in the accounting world, it could be a big bump for you, So it could be a big hit. So just teaching them those things and how to go about your business the right way.
Yeah. So, yeah, many call at the NIL era the new Wild West. What's the wildest story or biggest shift you've seen since these rules changed?
It's just the promises, the promises with nothing being promised on the other end. You know what I mean? Like I got friends in the bigger conferences and things like that, and guys are getting gifts or NIL deals, quote unquote, to just take visits, and then you get these gifts and then you commit to another school, but you get to keep that gift, be it whether it be a car or whatever the case is, and you're not really guaranteed, any type of return on investment. You know what I mean? So those things are kind of crazy, but also, once the season ends, I think every coach is on edge of trying to keep their players, and then, the bargaining begins from there. So those are some of the crazy things, but just the numbers that are being thrown at some of these guys, it's crazy too. But I think that's what, it triggers some of these players because they know they're better than a certain guy, but he's getting this dollar amount at a different school, so they're going to go test the market.
Yeah, that kind of honestly leads right into my next question. So obviously a lot of these college players are getting 6 and even 7-figure, deals, while many other players on the team are receiving little to nothing. Have you seen these high dollar deals impact like team dynamics and locker room relationships?
Yeah, I've seen it. Guys come in here and they may be a new transfer or anywhere else. I'm sure it's happening everywhere else, but he may not necessarily perform, but they know just how he's living his life and the things that he has, that he's getting something. And that's just where the reality sets in. You know what I mean? He's getting this amount of money, but he's not performing. So what should I get? And they go test the waters, and especially right after the season, when those, before prior to spring, when those numbers hit and they see how much somebody else is getting, it's like, okay, now you get guys coming to your office because the market and some guys produce and deserve those numbers, some guys don't, and but other schools at in different conferences can afford to pay high dollar for a second, third string guy. So that's just the reality of it.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard from coaches now it's triple recruiting. You're recruiting not only high school players obviously coming in, you're recruiting the transfer portal for players that are already in college, and then you're also recruiting your own players to stay and not leave, which is obviously way different than, when I was growing up in college football, where even if you did transfer, there was rules so you couldn't play the next year, so it kind of made players not really want to transfer all that often, and it was, I feel like a lot more continuity, which is from my perspective, I feel like the biggest change is just like when people used to come in back in the day to come in as freshmen and know they're going to be there for the next 3 or 4 years. Now it's like a player will come in, you don't know if they're going to be there even by the end of the season.
Right.
Stuff like that. It's definitely changed a lot. It's just crazy to see. So with the transfer portal becoming much more active, and often, player movement has affected roster building and stuff like that. Especially at a program like Oregon State, is it causing you to have to re-recruit the players you already have on the roster frequently? Is that like something you guys deal with? I know you kind of just touched on that, but Have you had to deal with that a lot in your time here?
I've had to deal with it. I wouldn't say a ton, just based on the program that we are, because it's still big time ball. Guys like it here, and I think that's the most important thing is guys like it, and they don't want to leave their teammates. But if you can compensate them and keep them happy, it's worked out that way. You know what I mean? So, but we also try to preach that if you stay in a program, when you stay in a system on offense or defense for multiple years, you only become better. And then talking about building continuity is like that's the hardest thing because that's all you talk about. The better team is going to win. These portal teams who are loading their rosters with new guys every year aren't necessarily just converting and winning right away. There are some, don't get me wrong, but it's hard to keep the continuity. So we try to encourage that, and guys want to be around each other. So the guys that have stayed loyal and been around, I think they reap the benefits of it, and they'll eventually get what they deserve compensation-wise.
Yeah, because I feel like continuity is, like in business, obviously you don't want high employee turnover. Right. And in this, it's kind of the same. Like you don't want to have to remake all those relationships every year and get to know a new guy every year. Continuity and just kind of consistency, I feel like is super big.
And I want to make this very clear, like, I'm all for a guy going somewhere, developing, and going to get what they deserve.
For sure.
You know what I mean? I think that we would all do what's best for us in
100%.
the situation. You build personal relationship with these guys. You don't want to see anybody fail. So that's just what the game's become.
Yeah. So this is something that I wanted to talk about. So I've seen in the NFL, obviously, certain positions are kind of valued higher than other positions. And I was kind of interested, have you seen, since obviously you coach defensive backs, have you seen your recruiting experiences differ from, say, other position groups and coaches?
Absolutely. This offseason, you're looking for a corner. You know what I mean? Everybody wants a corner.
That's like the NFL.
That's like the NFL, you know what I mean? Corners, quarterbacks, defensive ends are high dollar. If you want, running back, no offense against running backs or linebackers, you just aren't going to be a high-paying position, which guys have to understand too.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for a DB in the portal that's a really good DB, you're gonna pay some money for it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So now I want to get into a little bit of just stuff relating to like rule controversy and stuff like that. So there's kind of been debates about whether NIL is what college sports needed or if it's fueling chaos. As it stands, there's still obviously a lot of inconsistency in how NIL rules are enforced, from the NCAA to state laws and even among individual schools. Have you or your staff ever faced uncertainty or confusion regarding actual rule policies due to just the unclear framework that's in place right now?
I think there was definitely some gray for the entire football community at one point, because that's with anything new.
Yeah, especially when it was introduced.
Yeah, it gets introduced, and you got to, the thing about the NCAA and the college teams is that there's always going to be a loophole somewhere, and then until that loophole gets patched up, there's going to be some loose ends. So now I think they're cracking down on it. It'll really get better. You know what I mean? But, it had to happen. It did have to happen. It's going to be worse before it gets better. But I think there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah. Well, even in the last year, like they've already put like I know a cap on how much you can spend, kind of like a salary cap in the pros. I think it's at like $20.5 million or something a roster. So they're definitely trying to work on it. But yeah, there's a lot of still uncertainty around it that I think definitely they need to work on to just ensure everything's like fair.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like even our compliance. You have to go to required meetings where they're explaining this stuff thoroughly, so that way you do understand it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But I think they're trying to do it the right way. But like I said, there's gonna be loopholes to where people can get what they want.
So this is kind of just your opinion. If you could change one thing about the current NIL system, on like a broad scale, like anything, what would it be to make it better? What would it be that you think would make it better for athletes?
This is my opinion. I think to make it better for athletes is having a tier system. Maybe based on class or something like that. It would just be on a wide spectrum or by conference.
Yeah.
To where, guys are like, okay, I'm trying to go to the Pac because they got this package over there, or I'm trying to get to the SEC or whatever, the Big Ten because they have this NIL package over there. I think things like that will kind of make it more, truly competitive, opposed to just having them and then the small guys, but also just creating, more of a, like I said, a dollar system to where these guys can get.
Yeah.
So that way everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
But
that's smart. Actually.
But there would just be too many scenarios in that. Yeah. That's in a perfect world. But in my opinion, just being able to, maybe separated by conference or something like that. That way guys are, being competitive and want to go to a certain place.
Yeah. Talking about conferences, how do you feel about the new additions to the Pac?
I like it. I'm a West Coast guy, so to me, Mountain West teams have never been a slap to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And hopefully, they get more kids on the West Coast to go to those schools, playing bigger competition. But the Pac was something I came up in. And I've watched since a kid, so I'm excited for it to get back. And I don't think it's anything to sleep on.
Yeah. No, for sure. And that play starts 2026? 2026, okay. Excited for that. So, yeah, kind of coming to near a close here. So, as someone who obviously works in a CPA firm that's been working along NIL athletes, I've seen a huge gap in educating and assisting these young athletes and how to handle their tax situation and finances. Have you seen more of an effort from people around either Oregon State or the NCAA to make sure these players are being financially smart and safe?
I think the thought is being brought up. I think, guys and companies like you guys have a great opportunity to capitalize on some of this stuff. But it's being brought up to where these guys should be aware of it because it's going to hit them in the back end.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If they
for
figure
sure.
it out. But maybe that could be something about NIL too to change about the NCAA.
Yeah.
Hiring, specific firms that are partners with NCAA to make sure that these guys are taken care of because we do these kids a disservice if we allow these opportunities but don't help them when things are in their best.
Give them assistance.
You know what I mean? And another thing too that I probably should have said a question or two ago is giving these guys the resources that are like immediate. Pay them for a place to live, pay them for transportation, make sure they have food. If you can take care of the necessities, everything on top of that is a plus.
Yeah.
That's something I would also change about the NIL.
Yeah, that would be great. So, yeah, we're almost out of our questions here, but last but not least, I had to ask this. I know obviously you have to keep your cards close to your chest, but that being said, is there anything you want to say to all the excited and eager Beaver fans about either the defensive back room or just the 2025 Beavers in general?
I think Research Stadium and Beaver fans should just be ready to rev up the chainsaw on third down. There's going to be some exciting plays made offensively.
For sure.
To just kind of get back. But the team is really, really close together, which is what our community can look forward to. I know that's how we've always represented Oregon State here. So just be excited to win some games in Research, be on some primetime TV. So make sure you got your packages ready. But just be ready to cheer us on, and we'll make sure we give you something to cheer on.
Yeah, sounds great. So thank you so much for joining me today, Coop. It's been a pleasure to catch up and talk about obviously some important topics. Everyone make sure to turn in to the Beaver games this season. They are ready and set for an amazing season. So everyone involved should be excited for that. And also don't forget to follow all our social media links in the description below so you don't miss out another awesome podcast just like this. And thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Go Beavs.